Welcome to my new governor prediction for the month of August, so let's start. And there we go, so first of all, let's just start off with some safe races. So for Illinois, we all know it's going to be JB Pritzker against Darren Bailey, and Darren Bailey is getting heavily attacked by Pritzker due to Bailey's abortion stances, and the polling has been interesting. Some pollsters have this getting more narrow, but it's really hard to make a call on how well Bailey does or how bad Pritzker does, but I still see Pritzker winning here by a safe margin of at least 12%. While for Colorado, because Polis, the incumbent, is running for a second term, and the main issue for the GOP here is the Constitution Party will actually be a threat to them if they want to narrow this race up. And what I think will happen is that Polis will easily win here by a safe margin. Same as Illinois, and yeah. Well, for the red states, let's just talk about Texas. And this cycle is likely to favor the GOP. It's going to be Abbott versus Beto O'Rourke. I see Abbott winning here easily by 15% or more. So let's just go to Ohio, another key race. And he will face Whaley, the Democrat nominee. And I think there was some news for the independents that one of them got disqualified. So that's going to help Mike DeWine quite a lot, and I see him easily winning here, probably by a 12% margin. Let's go to the likely states. So let's go ahead and talk about a major race. So for Florida, it's looking like DeSantis will in fact win big, and for the polling, let's just go briefly. It's really not that noteworthy. The main reason why I have Florida dropping from a safe state or race in my last prediction to a likely race is just because the environment has gotten better for the Democrats in this past month, and DeSantis wins here just below that 12% threshold to be a safe state, so 9 to 11%. And now for Georgia. So in 2018, this was one of the most well-known races, and Brian Kemp barely won here by 1.4%, and in 2022 it's a rematch with Brian Kemp running for re-election against Stacey Abrams. So for the polling and predictions, most people have this somewhere around a lean R, which I do tend to agree, fun fact, with that, because the polling really has not been great for Abrams. Her campaign has been not as good compared to 2018, which is one of the reasons why I think Brian Kemp is doing so well this time around. And I have Brian Kemp either between a likely race or a lean race, so I'm going to give Brian Kemp the win here barely by a 5% margin in this rematch. And now for another likely race. For the race in Rhode Island, it's going to be Matt Key, the new kind of incumbent governor, against some Republican. The Republican nominee is not well known yet, even though I think I don't know who's going to be the nominee, but whoever Trump endorses will go against the Democratic Party come November. I think the Democrats barely miss out on this race being a safe margin. Rhode Island goes by a likely margin of 9 to 11%, kind of the same as Florida. So that's it for the likely races. So let's just move on to the lean races where it gets more competitive. Okay, so I'm gonna try to keep the states in order. So for Connecticut, 4 years ago, Connecticut was really narrow and way closer than anticipated, and now in 2022, once again, a rematch between Ned Lamont and Stefanowski. And for the polling, let's just go quickly. Stefanowski is doing better in the polling, but here's the thing: if the economy keeps at this meh/good momentum, you could say, then I think, it could be on the cards that the incumbent Democrats, Ned Lamont, could very well win here by a likely margin because of his incumbency, but for now, I do have him just winning here by a lean margin of 4%. And yeah, I think that's pretty fair take on that state. And now for the other states, let's just go to Minnesota, why not? As you can see, in 2018, this was an easy win for the Democrats, almost by a safe margin. And now, in 2022, it's going to be Tim Walz who's going to run for re-election against Dr. Scott Jensen, with Matt Birk, is going to be his lieutenant governor nominee, which is kind of goofy because he was I don't know, it's not goofy, but it's just kind of fun and a bit of a meme. And for what pollsters think, it is quite interesting to see what many pollsters are thinking of the race. So most of them have this as either likely or lean D. And as shown, you can see how both candidates have risen in recent times. So I'm not too sure what the margin would be in this state. I do see Tim Walz winning here. I'm not too sure by what he will win here, but because of how well things have gone for the Democrats, he wins here by 2 to 4%. That's about it, so let's just move on to another Rust Belt race that is key for both parties. In the state of Michigan, it's going to be a key race, and in 2018, Whitmer won here for the first time by almost 10%. Whitmer will go and face re-election against Tudor Dixon, who is the GOP nominee, because James Craig was disqualified early on in the primary, which was quite a big problem for the GOP, since I think James Craig was one of the most, not one of the most, he was the best nominee for them in this state of Michigan. And the polling, let's just go. So the polling has been quite interesting ever since Dixon actually got the nomination. And I think Gretchen Whitmer is already breaking the 50% margin. And even if, let's just say hypothetically, Dixon gets half or 2/3 of the undecided voters, it wouldn't be enough for her. And the economy really just improved out of nowhere, even though most people thought it was going to tank. And this month has been quite great for the Democrats, which is why I think Gretchen Whitmer, once November comes around, and it's getting close, she will win here by a margin of 1.5% to 3.5% for a state that had a primary not long ago. So let's just go to Wisconsin. So Wisconsin was a Trump average state in 2018, and he's in big trouble in 2022 because of many reasons. The GOP basically blocked all the legislations he wanted to pass, so that's not a good look for him. And for his re-election, he's going to face Tim Michels, the Republican nominee, or Tim Michels, I think. You know what, I'm just going to call him Tim Michels. I think that's the right way to say it. And the Republican primary happened not that long ago, and Rebecca Kleefisch, who was the main and leading nominee, lost because Trump endorsed Tim Michels, and yeah, she did poorly, even though she had been leading almost a year for now, if not more. And for the pollsters and the predictions, most of them have them as a Tossup, but there's 538 with another L, as always, for some reason. I do wonder why they do that. And there's not that many pollsters yet because the primary just happened. Okay, I'm back. So I was saying I think Kleefisch would have won here by either a margin of 4% to maybe a likely margin of 6%. But with Tim Michels, yes, he wins here by 2.5%. And yeah, I mean, he doesn't do as good as Kleefisch, but he still defeats Evers easily. You know what, let's just move down to the Southwest for Arizona. So Arizona was another key state for Trump, and he got his nominee, which will be pretty pro-Trump Republican Kari Lake. So Kari Lake will face Katie Hobbs, who hasn't really done much. I've sometimes even forget she is the Democrat nominee. I'm not sure if she's having some problems with campaigning, but I sometimes forget about that. Maybe she's just focusing on Arizona, which could very well be. And for the polling, Hobbs is declining while Lake rises. For the main issue for Lake, here's the polls. I've noticed that she's not cozying up to the center, and she's still, hardcore Trump nominee, which some of you will like. But when you're running an election, that could very well be the deciding factor of if you win or not. I still see her winning here, and the reason why I think Kari Lake still wins here is because of the red wave will favor her, and she wins here by 1 to 2%, and that's it for the lean states, if I'm not mistaken. So let's just go, let's just go fast to the tilt states. There's one race that's sticking out like a sore thumb. So for Kansas, so I know a lot of you are scratching your heads on why Kansas, a state that Trump won, but Kelly won in the midterms by 5%. In 2022, the main reason why this has changed from a likely race to a tilt race is not because of Laura Kelly and Schmidt having a problem or something happening. It's because of an independent candidate who is trying to outflank the GOP nominee, and that is Dennis Pyle, who is running as an independent candidate. So that will spoil the race to a certain extent for the GOP, and you can see already the race was quite neck and neck. But if Dennis Pyle is able to get anywhere from 3% to 4%, even if it's just some voters, then which could really be a issue for the GOP. This is hard to make a call. I'm waiting to see how things go in the polls, because if we see Dennis Pyle do better than expected, then this could very well flip for, or I should say, stay Democrats in this midterm. But for now, I barely have this as a tilt state by 0.75%. Republicans win here by a high tilt margin. And yeah, so let's just go to the West Coast, to Nevada. And Sisolak, the incumbent Democrat, won here in 2018 by 4%. Now in 2022, he's going to face, not Laxalt, but he will face Joe Lombardo, the Republican nominee. For the polling, I think, Lombardo was a great nominee by the GOP. And I think, oh wow, this is really undecided, so it's quite up and down. The undecided voters will likely go for Joe Lombardo, and what I think will happen is that Joe Lombardo, I don't know if it's going to be a big red wave or a mild red wave. Either way, I see the GOP winning in Nevada due to current trends in the state, especially with Latino voters. And Lombardo wins here by 0.75%, just like Kansas, weirdly enough. And now for another race, for the race in Maine. Let's time travel back to 2018, where Janet Mills won here by 7.7%, and in 2022, she will face former Republican Governor Paula Page, who is running, trying to get a non-consecutive second term, which is why this race is quite unique. You have two governors trying to get a second term, basically, and it's quite neck and neck, which is why, because of the good economy, that is looking like it will last at least after November, which is a good sign for Democrats. I see Janet Mills winning here, probably by the same margin as Nevada, 0.75%. And now this is getting to that territory where it's really almost near toss-ups for any of these races. So let's start off for Oregon. So Oregon, even though it's a really big state for the Democrats, it was only 6% in 2018. So you can really tell that already from then on, it was a big issue for the Democrats. Now in 2022, Tina Kotek is in big trouble because even though she wasn't the Democrat that is highly unpopular in this state, she is quite a lot like her policy-wise, which many Republicans will not like, and she is facing Drazen, the Republican, and Betsy Johnson. And if you don't know yet, Betsy Johnson is I don't know how you call it, a conservative Democrat or a moderate Democrat, you can say, and she will probably take away voters from the Democratic Party. And for the general election, a lot of pollsters have this as lean D, which is quite a fair take, I would say. It's not horrible. And let's see the pollsters. Oh yeah, you can see that if Johnson is able to split the votes, then Drazen could actually lead. But it's going to be a cursed map, because Johnson, if this keeps up, she could actually get second place if she does well enough, which is insane to think about. We won't know until October how things will go. I think because of the good economy and how good of a month for Democrats this has been, I'm gonna give this race to the Democrats. God knows the margin. If the economy keeps up, then Kotek will win here. But if Betsy Johnson cuts voters away from her, then Oregon could go red, even though Kansas could actually go blue. Oh no, that's cursed. Yeah, let's just move on. So, for the race in New Mexico, in this race, Grisham won here easily in 2018, but in 2022, she's one of the weakest incumbents, and she will face Mark Ronchetti, who is quite an electable candidate in the state of New Mexico by the GOP. And if there's anyone in the state that can flip New Mexico, it's him basically, which is why this is a must-watch race. And polling, it's really neck and neck. It's anyone's game. For the month of August, even though, you know, it's been a good month for Democrats, I think Grisham is really weak, and weaker than what most even think. And I think if Mark Ronchetti just runs a decent campaign, he will win here still, and I see him winning here by, not as much as my last prediction, but I think he wins here by 0.5%. And for the last race for Pennsylvania, which was extremely blue in 2018, now in 2022 it's basically a true toss-up, is Josh Shapiro, the Attorney General of the state, going against Trump-backed, extremely Trump-supported Doug Mastriano. And yeah, so, you know, before I talk about my take on this race, let's see what the pollsters are saying. So, most of them are saying toss-up, tilt D. I've noticed one alarming thing for Mastriano is that he's not getting the financials from the National Republican Party, and he's simply not getting the money. Because of that, I see Josh Shapiro, you know, barely winning here. I think that GOP is leaving out Mastriano to fend off by himself, which is why I see Josh Shapiro winning here by around 0.25% to 0.5%. And as you can see, the GOP wins with 30 seats against the Democrats' 20 seats. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. Stay tuned for the next video.